Welcome back to our second part of this event. We're going to start with our discussion in a minute, but first I have another point. I have a list of participants, so if you would like to write down your name and just say you are here, it's just for our historical background to emerge. I'll just let it pass through the people, and now it's my pleasure to introduce the participants at our podium's discussion. At first there's Niels Stern. He holds 2 master degrees, one in literature and communication by Københavns Universitet, and a master in communication from Goldsmiths College at the University of London. He works at the Nordic Council of Ministers as head of publishing and takes care of the publication unit especially works on developing the publishing and digital publishing strategies for the Northern European states. And we are happy to have you here, Niels. Then there's Peter Schirmbacher. He wrote his economic diploma thesis about the organization of data processing and did his doctor's degree in the field of applied computer science. Peter Schirmbacher is, among other activities, head of the Computer and Media Department at Humboldt University Berlin, and furthermore, member of the Media Commission at this university. He is an active part of the global open access movement and worked, for instance, together with many other participants at the Berlin Declaration on Open Access to Knowledge in the Sciences and Humanities in 2003. So, thank you for being here with us today. Then there's Turit Hedlund. She wrote her doctoral thesis on cross-language information retrieval and worked from a system design and linguistic point of view. One of her main research interests today are scientific communication and the scientific publishing process, especially open access publishing. Turit Hedlund works at the Hanken School of Economics in Helsinki and is member of the OACS Open Access Communication for Science. And it's great to have you here, Turit. Thank you. And last but not least, there's Sascha Frieseke. He earned his diploma at the TU Berlin and won the Erwin Stefan Prize for excellent scientific work and efficient studying. He wrote his doctoral thesis about profiting from innovation by managing intellectual property at the Institute of Technology Management, which is a department of the University St. Gallen in Switzerland. Today, Sascha Frieseke works at the Humboldt Institute for Internet and Society right across the street. He's engaged in studies regarding Internet-enabled innovation, and it's nice to have you here, Sascha. Now I'll hand over the word to Peter Schirmbacher, who agreed to give a short introducing statement before we start the discussion.
To give an introduction to open access is quite difficult because we heard a lot of things about the open access journal, the Nordeuropa-Forum, as that's one example for open access. But on the other side, I'm not informed about the knowledge about open access. That's why it is my aim to speak a little bit more about the rules and the basic idea of open access. In the past, we have a lot of discussions about open access. We discussed in many podiums discussion. We have lectures, we have pictures, we have posters, and so on. But in all activities, you will find a lot of people with very different opinions about open access. What is it really, open access? The reason for this phenomenon, from my point of view, is at least 2 things. The first one is open access to scholarly output depends from the publication culture of the different fields, different scholarly fields. There's a big difference between a publication of a computer specialist, not more than 5 or up to 6 pages in a journal. That is the result of research in the computer world. It is characteristic for a computer specialist. And at the other side, you have a historian with a monograph about 300 pages. So, and if you are thinking about the publication culture, you will find it quite difficult. Of course, the informatic specialist will read the article at the screen, but nobody will read the monograph at a screen. And there are some additional rules, and that's not the time for me to speak about all the different points of the culture of publication. But it is very an important thing if you are discussing open access in a university or open access in a faculty. There's a big difference from my point of view. And the second point is a personal opinion. That means a publication is a result of a scientific work. It gives a picture of the person, and it is important for the reputation as a scientist or as a scholar, and so on. And all in all, you will find 4 functions of a publication. And an open access publication fulfills the same aim. The first one is communication between the scholarly community. The second one is the sustainability of knowledge. In order to say who is the author, who is really the author of this article or this special findings. The third one is the reputation of a scholar, and the fourth one could be, in most cases not, but it could be to get money from a publication. So if you are thinking about basic of open access, so you have to see the whole research process. The aim of the activity is to explore new scientific findings and to share this knowledge with the scholarly community, and in many cases also with the public. One of the best ways to disseminate the knowledge is the publication. In the past, there were at least 3 barriers to disseminate results. The first barrier was the production process, and especially the process of making copies. How is it possible to make a copy? We had to wait up to Gutenberg in order to have the chance to realize in an effective way copies. The second barrier was a question for an effective dissemination process. How it is possible to disseminate the papers in the different regions of the world. With the digitization and the internet, we have at first the chance to change the rules in this field. There's no problem to make a copy, there's no problem to disseminate. The only one is the effective process, because in the dissemination process, in the distribution process of publication, we have the publishing houses. One part in the past, one part, necessary part, who take over the task to disseminate, to make copies, and so on. Nowadays, we have to ask, what is the rule of a publishing house? And that could be one point of our discussion here. If I spoke about digitization and the internet, so in 1992 we heard the first time the call for open access and knowledge. Stephen Hannard wrote an article about the possibilities of open access. In December 2001 we have the first open access conference in Budapest. And the result of this conference was a petition for all scholars all over the world in February 2002, where you can read the first time the requirements or the call for open access. A lot of additional activities were in the past, and in 2003 we have the so-called Berlin conference held in Berlin-Dahlem in October 2003. It was celebrated there, and the Max Planck Society of Germany was one of the main organizers of this conference. The result of this conference was the so-called Berlin Declaration, and I will cite a little bit, only 2 points from this Berlin Declaration, because in this 11 years a lot of things are discussed about the Berlin Declaration, and sometimes it is necessary to go back to the real Berlin Declaration. So let me cite. The author and right holders of such contribution grant to all users a free worldwide right to access to and a license to copy, use, distribute, transmit and display the work publicly and to make and distribute derivates work in any digitized medium and for any responsible purpose subject to proper attributes of authorship, as well as the right to make small numbers of printed copies to their personal use. This is one requirement, and the second one is a complete version of the work and all supplemental materials, including a copy of the permission as stated above in an appropriate standard electronic format, is deposited. That is supported and maintained by an academic institution, scholarly society, government agency or other well-established organization that seeks to enable open access, unrestricted distribution, interoperability and long-term archiving. So if I will summarize a little bit, so nobody of the open access protagonists spoke against copyright or against the German Urheberrecht. And the second point is that you need a trusted repository to publish your work. At the end, some personal words. I was one of the first 100 subscribers of the Berlin Declaration. I took part at this conference in Berlin-Dahlem. When Humboldt University subscribed the Berlin Declaration, it was in 2006, when President Marxis subscribed the Berlin Declaration, I became the so-called function to be the speaker for my university in all open access affairs. I gave a lot of presentation in the past, include the topics in my lecture, organized special seminars, and so on. I believe the open access idea is very good and can bring the people all over the world together. This is the most important point, to give all people in the world the same chance. But if you are looking at the today mentioned EDOC server, the so-called publication server of the Humboldt University, you will find 4,400 articles from the scientists of the university. My university have about 2,200 scholars, and if every scholar will publish only one article a year, so we had 20,000 articles of our publication server. It is a point of discussion. What are the reasons for this phenomenon? And this is a point which we should discuss a little bit more in details. So my question in this audience, how many people of this audience published already in open access? What is really the culture of the publication or the publishing process in the different research fields? Or are there publication culture for the whole university? Which kind of chance is it to influence such a policy? Are there some special points in the university to support the open access activities? These are points of interest for me, and it would be fine if we can discuss a little bit more about such points. Thank you.